Good morning and thank you for joining us for a special edition of State of Texas in Depth. I'm Josh Hinkle, and today the Austin City Limits Music Festival wraps up. But next weekend you can go to the ACL of Texas politics. This month KXAN News is the official partner of the Texas Tribune's Trib Fest. Throughout this program we'll look at some of the most interesting conversations and forums. The whole festival kicks off on Friday, October 16th with a one-on-one conversation with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Of course, Patrick's appearance during last year's festival came as the senator was running for the state's #2 post. And this year's festival wraps up with a one-on-one conversation with U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro. Expect plenty of questions about the 2016 race, since many believe he's a likely pick for running mate if Hillary Clinton wins the nomination on the Democratic side. No matter what you're interested in, there are forums and conversations that impact you. They range from what is sure to be a lively debate about gay rights and states' rights with Representative Cecil Bell Jr., Representative Rafael Anchia, and others. That's Saturday afternoon. And then there's the discussion about college prices versus their costs and versus their value. UT Austin President Gregory Fenves will appear with the University of Houston System Chancellor Renu Khater. That forum takes place at the same time but in a different place. And this one should be interesting. State Representative Trey Martinez Fisher and UT System Regent Wallace Hall Jr. talking about transparency. You can also see big city mayors talk about the common challenges and possible solutions in their areas. One of those on the panel, Austin Mayor Steve Adler, who spoke with me about the biggest issues facing our city. A lot of the same similar challenges. One of them that your leadership appears to have moved up the timeline this year is funding for police body cameras. Why did you feel like that was important to get that right out in the forefront?
You know, I think that given what's happening nationally, the issue of accountability with respect to law enforcement is top of mind. Having body cameras provides that accountability. It's something that's supported not only by the community but by our police chief and by our police officers. And I think the real issue was waiting for the technology to catch up with the desire. And our police tell us that we have reached that place now, so it was time to move forward.
Speaking of the budget, this was one of the city's largest budgets in history, and I know that you talked a lot about transparency and affordability and funding in your campaign. How do you think everything played out now, seeing the budget process as a mayor?
I'm real proud of how this council went through the budget process, beginning with how we went through the budget. It was very different than it's been done in past years. It was a lot more transparent and open. Most of the ideas that were considered on budget day had been posted a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead of time, and the community had an opportunity to be able to debate those. The ideas were sharpened and they were improved. Some of the ideas were pushed forward and some fell by the wayside. But we ended up with a budget that for the first time, I think, in Austin's history actually not only reduced the tax rate but actually reduced absolute taxes. We passed the first general homestead exemption. We increased the exemption for seniors and disabled, and we did all that at the same time that we increased funding for health and human services over $9 million, over $3 million more for parks. We went after the 5 most dangerous intersections in this city, addressing mobility issues. I'm real proud of this budget.
What about the water bills? That's an issue that a lot of people have been talking about right now. You know, we get a lot of emails from people with viewer tips trying to get us to do stories about stuff, but I can tell you the water bill issue in Austin has been by far the thing that we get the most emails about in recent months. People can't understand why their water bill is so high. We've talked to Austin Water and Austin Energy because they explain it that maybe this is the first time that people think we're out of the drought, so we don't have to conserve as much, and our water rate is more now. Can you kind of talk about your thoughts with all of these complaints?
You know, the water rate is more, but it is not more at the level that people are feeling or seeing. It was a very slight increase. I think that of real concern for this city is the fact that water usage seems to be significantly higher now than it was several months ago. And I think that's in part with the feeling that people believe the drought might be over and the lakes are filled. You know, I tell people that when we came into office, we came in a drought situation. The lakes were only 30% full, and the first thing the city council did was make it rain and fill up the lakes. Long term, they predict these kind of drought conditions to continue and to exacerbate. This is a city that has to plan for that. So we have to keep people conserving. If anything, I think over time we need to strengthen the conservation measures. We need to do a lot more with water reuse than we're doing. I understand people are real concerned about their water bills. I am too, and the sudden surge that we saw is still something that baffles me. We've gotten the answer from staff as well as from consumers, but we're continuing to follow that just because of that reaction.
Is an answer enough, or should there be a change?
Well, I think that we need to better understand what the answer is. I mean, we need change regardless of the answer, I guess. If there was a billing problem, we need to correct it, and at this point we haven't been able to identify one. If it's a water usage problem, then we need to correct that. It is important that we continue to diminish the per capita water use in this city. We're on a great trend and have been for several years, and we need to maintain that.
You can catch Mayor Steve Adler next weekend at the Texas Tribune Festival. He'll appear on the Big Cities, Big Challenges panel, along with the mayors of Houston, Corpus Christi, and San Antonio on Sunday morning. You can find the full lineup and information about tickets to the festival at texastribune.org/festival. There's so much more at the Tribune Festival and more to come this morning. Ahead, Austin State Representative Eddie Rodriguez joins me to talk about the environment. Next on State of Texas In Depth. Welcome back to State of Texas In Depth. This week we are giving you an exclusive preview of next weekend's Texas Tribune Festival. One thing that makes the festival different from most conventions and events is that there are sessions for just about every interest. In addition to big keynote sessions, there are 9 tracks, each with several sessions. Want to learn more about healthcare or higher education? There are forums all day Saturday. How about immigration policy? Attend the sessions ranging from border security to unlocking the Hispanic vote. And for environmental issues, you can check out the panel featuring Austin State Representative Eddie Rodriguez. I sat down with him earlier to talk about the environmental challenges facing the state. One of the big things you'd been talking about recently was the Clean Air Act, and I know you'd been very outspoken about the Attorney General suing the EPA over this particular topic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is political pandering. I think it's just, if it's something that comes out of the Obama administration or the federal government, it's bad. And I think it's just kind of a knee-jerk reaction on the part of the leadership at this time. And I think it's just needless litigation. I don't think it's going to lead to anything. I proposed a bill that basically would say, you know what, Texas, let's just find our own approach. Let's just assume that it might pass and the lawsuit doesn't work out, that we have our own kind of Texas solution to that plan. And that didn't go anywhere because that didn't, it seemed like a capitulation to the federal government. I don't mean to sound cynical about it, but that's been pretty much what happened.
Another thing I know that you've been talking about recently is a report that you are behind regarding a tract of land, 2 million acres in West Texas, that the UT system owns and are using it in part for oil and gas production. You had some concerns over that.
I did. I have some concerns on the fracking of that land. There's still a lot of studies to be done. I'm not opposed to fracking per se, but these are state lands, and I think that we should probably have a better feel for what environmental impact fracking actually has. You know, another bill that happened this session was the ban on fracking. The people of North Texas and other cities actually around the state have voted to say that, you know, we don't want fracking within the city limits or whatnot. So this legislature this past session basically said, nope, that's not the purview of the city, it's the purview of the state, and it overturned essentially any kind of local ordinance. So there's a lot of push on the side of oil and gas to kind of leave fracking alone. I just think we need to step back, particularly when it comes to state land, to see what the impact is, truly the true impact of fracking in the state.
Here in Central Texas, though, we don't really have fracking, so why should Central Texans be concerned with this issue?
Well, I mean, if you're concerned about the quality of water and air, period. I mean, you should be concerned about it. I mean, I think that what happens around the state, you shouldn't turn a blind eye to something that's happening. That's not a good or a positive thing for a community across the state of Texas. I mean, we are all Texans after all, so it is in all of our interests that the air is clean and the drinking water and in and around the state of Texas is.
Something that Central Texans are very concerned about with the environment is water. I know a couple of years ago, the legislature made it possible for Texans to vote on whether we wanted to dedicate money to help build water projects across the state. How do you think that's going, and what's the next step for the legislature?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a little bit early to see how that's going. We just voted on that last year, I guess. So I think it's a little bit early to see. I think the next step really is to see how that progresses. And I think we really need to focus a little bit more on the conservation side. We've done a good job. That measure that we passed did have some conservation aspect to it, but we need to look at that a little bit more focused on the conservation side. We went through a serious drought, and we're still there's parts of the state that are still in it. We've just been very blessed to have a lot of rain recently, but we don't know what's going to happen in the near future. So I think getting Texans kind of prepared to watch how much water that we use and other conservation type measures is the way to go, because that'll lessen the blow if we do have some more serious drought kind of situations.
A lot of our viewers have been sending us emails complaining about high water rates recently. Austin Water tells us, this is the first time that a lot of people are possibly using more water because they think we're out of a drought and we don't have to conserve as much anymore. Yeah. That's not really the case. Do you feel like that there's that misconception out there, and what can lawmakers do about that?
There is some misconception out there, but I think there's some validity to that. I think people, we do want to. The news is going to be, hey, we're out of this drought now, and people just kind of sigh of relief and let's just go on as usual. There is part of that, and conservation at the legislative level. Part of that is going to be encouraging, requiring cities and local governments to educate the population on water conservation. That is a big part of it. So. I think the state still has a role to play when it comes to local water rates in that regard. Let's put our money where our mouth is and try to get the local governments to educate its population.
Again, you can see Rodriguez at next week's Texas Tribune Festival, Saturday afternoon in the Environment and the Legislature session. For a full lineup and tickets, check out texastribune.org/festival. We have much more coming up with our political roundtable, both from the Texas Tribune. Alana Rocha and Ian Mitra next on State of Texas in Depth. Welcome back to State of Texas in Depth. This morning we're talking all about the Texas Tribune Festival. It's coming up next weekend on UT's campus. Hundreds of speakers will take all sorts of Texas political topics on, and many of those sessions will be moderated by Texas Tribune reporters and editors like my roundtable guests today, Ian Mitra and Alana Rocha. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us. Let's dive right in. This is the 5th year for the Trib Fest. What's going to be different this year, Ian?
This year we've added a national politics track. I mean, we still have the 10 other tracks that we've had in the past. We're adding this national track. We really, since with 2016 being such a big part of the news, the political season's already begun. There's going to be a lot of people from national organizations, national candidates that'll be coming to speak about election season, the presidential election. One of our particular sessions that we'll be looking forward to the most is Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic minority leader in the U.S. House. She's coming, so there'll be a lot more of new things to come.
Well, you see a lot of familiar faces year to year. This is my 4th festival, and what changes year to year are just the topics. I mean, Texas news obviously changes, so we reflect that in our panel discussion topics, and they'll also be reflected in our live recordings that we'll have on Friday of our Tribcast, our Reveal, which is our program partnership with the Center for Public Integrity, as well as the Ticket 2016 that KUT does with our own Jay Root, talking about all the 2016 news, and there's plenty of that.
Some tech differences too, right? Yep, that's cool.
Yeah.
for those people who have never been to Tribune Fest, I've been every year. I'm kind of like the political nerd that will really enjoy this, but why should people reconsider if they've never been before?
Well, the issues change, and things that you're always interested before, there's still new discussions to be had. If you're interested about what public education, changes in public education, you're always going to want to know what new laws have been passed and what's going on, what we're facing. You're still going to be interested in to learn about new legislation that passed on guns, which was a big thing this year in our legislative session. So there are always new topics of discussion to be had, and so it's just, this is the one place where you can actually go and have those discussions at the same place. And if you want to go and talk about transportation, higher education, justice issues, this is the one place where you actually can go and have a place, a centralized place where all your lawmakers are here to talk about the issues that affect you every day.
I mean, 50+ interactive sessions, you know, about 40 minutes of discussion is the format, and the last 15 to 20 opened up to those in the audience that, you know, if you're a nurse, you're a teacher, you have direct access to the powers that be and those who make decisions that affect your everyday life on the job, and ask those questions direct.
How does all this really tie in with the Tribune's mission?
Well, as a nonprofit, you know, we're a news agency that's, you know, seeking out to, you know, make more informed Texans and engage those Texans, and this, you know, ties right in with that.
Seems like every year that mission gets bigger and bigger also.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we're expecting to have more than 225 speakers at this year's event, which is more than last year. We'll have more than 50 sessions, just lots of opportunities for people to learn about what's going on across the state, a chance to hear things that they may not have heard about when the news was coming out earlier this year during the session. Just lots of opportunities that you just can't get anywhere else.
The keynotes are some of the most exciting ones every year. Who are we having this year?
Well, he mentioned Nancy Pelosi on the national front. And what's nice, too, is going back to our mission and furthering that with the keynotes, is that they'll be live streamed. The national track, at least, will be live streamed. So even if you can't make it out to the festival, you can, you know, cozy up to a computer at home and be able to tune in and watch it there.
And on Friday night and Sunday morning, there's also different keynotes.
Right.
Yeah, on Friday night, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick will be our featured speaker in a one-on-one conversation, and on Sunday we'll also have Julian Castro will also be there on Sunday. Plus there'll be just several more keynotes too. We have several state officials that'll be speaking on during the day Saturday of the session of the festival. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to.
You guys are both moderating panels that are kind of related to transportation. Obviously, that's going to be a big topic this year.
We are. It's a huge issue. I'm looking at the future of transportation in Texas, which a lot of people are curious, I'm sure, about, especially as fast as our state is growing, and, you know, as long as you know, we are sitting in traffic, it's always a topic of discussion and a lot of interest. So we have diverse panels all day long on that topic as well.
Well, besides your own panels, what one thing are you most looking forward to?
Oh, geez. It's hard to narrow it down with so much to look forward to. You know, I'm always interested in hearing from Dan Patrick. You know, this was his first year at the helm in the Senate, and so kind of seeing how he graded it. I did get a chance to sit down with him this summer, and he did go on a kind of speaking tour talking to his constituents about how the session went, and so it'll be interesting to see what he has to say now this far out from sine die.
And you?
So my wife loves Orange is the New Black, and so the author of the book Orange is the New Black, Piper Kerman, will be in part of one of our justice tracks. So I'm really interested to hear what she has to say when she comes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm always interested to see a lot of the bigger panels also and the bigger discussions, because often news is made at these things. You know, who knows what's going to say what.
Right. Well, we will be live tweeting all of the panels and have audio from them in the following week after the festival. But yeah, there's you know, Anita Perry made news a couple years ago in talking with Evan Smith, and so yeah, it's always interesting to see what they'll have to say.
Great. Well, people can still go to your website and they can find out more information and also get tickets.
Absolutely. TexasTribune.org/festival. Students and teachers get in for $50, and you can find all the price points for the tickets. And if it's too much, when you go to the website and see the ticket price, we are still accepting volunteers, and it's a great opportunity to stand around, help us out, and you know, have a front row seat in essence to a lot of these discussions.
Great, and we'll also have a link on our website so people can find you that way as well.
Great.
Thank you both for being with us, and good luck at the festival. And thank you again for joining us for State of Texas In Depth. Remember, you can join us every Sunday morning in our 8:30 half hour for a broader look at Texas politics. Stay tuned for Meet the Press coming up at 9. I'm Josh Hinkle. Have a great day.